Hey friend, it's Ryan. I'm so happy that you're joining me today. I'm so happy that you could see my black eye. I think it's official. Conor McGregor. People say that I look like him. Now I even look more like him. Somebody literally last night I walked into a restaurant and a guy was sitting at the front and he said, "Conor McGregor." I don't have as big of muscles as him, but regardless, I sort of resemble. Now I really do. I don't even have a good story. I wish I did. I had surgery, and this is what happened. So it was sealed shut a few days ago. It does look much better. Anyway, so much stuff going on here. So much exciting stuff here at the studio with Studio Sherpas. You guys know this is my other business. This is more than just a podcast. Studio Sherpas is more than just a podcast. I am really trying to create an awesome show for you to enjoy, but also behind the scenes, I'm creating courses for Studio Sherpas, live events like the Onward Summit, the Onward Summit, the Studio Sherpas online community. And I'm also running Tell Studios. So if you're watching this is, well, you probably can't even see that. It's not even in focus. Tell Studios is my bread and butter, where I've got a team of guys and a gal, and we're creating brand stories and doing all sorts of video work for clients. Over the past few months, I've been really challenged with my focus moving forward, and you might have heard me talk about it on a past episode. It was episode 134, about knowing when it's time to pivot inside of your business. And that was a huge step for me as I was looking at what we needed to do inside of Tell Studios, and also what the heck am I doing with Studio Sherpas. I don't have a ton of time. You don't have a ton of time right now to go into much of that right now, but I will tell you that one of my goals is to use my business, Tell Studios, as a guinea pig so you can learn and grow from my mistakes. That's kind of been my aim from the very beginning, as well as learn from the things that are going right. But my other goal is to ramp up my work within Studio Sherpas. I want to be more involved inside of the community and help others grow their business. I am super pumped about it, and I have something in my other eye. It just means, for me, there's more pressure for me to make sure that I have all things in place so that Tell Studios is a well-oiled machine and can handle me working less on that business while trying to make more money so that my employees can make more money, so I can make more money, all while deciding to stop work on Fridays. I don't work on Fridays anymore. So tons of craziness. I am glad that you're here with me on this journey, and I'm excited to see what we can do together. So that's it. Well, we're here for a podcast, right? Almost forgot. So today's episode is all about hiring, outsourcing, processes, automation. My guest is Matt Giovanisci. I don't know if you guys know him. Super crazy, cool, smart, handsome. Am I describing myself? I'm just kidding. I kid. We talk about how Matt decides if he's going to pursue a new idea or opportunity. This guy is a entrepreneurial machine. Not sure about you, but I get distracted all the time inside of this business. It's so easy for me to lose focus if you're me. This was really fun for us to actually talk about. Jumping in head first, why that's important. Looking at everything inside of your business as an experiment. I love this concept. I really think that for me, embracing this approach for quite some time now has been very, very helpful, and I think you're really going to like this. I think there's less guilt that comes along if you approach thinking of this business like an experiment. So if you're stuck in some areas and you're not sure if you should be outsourcing your work, when to hire, and some smart ways to approach that process, or if you're looking to automate some of your work, you're going to walk away from this episode with some good ideas that Matt and I discuss. But before we dive into the episode, I want to invite you to my free workshop where I'm going to take you through some different ways to charge more money for your video work, get bigger clients, and take your video business to the next level. I'm sharing all sorts of stuff that I've learned over the past 15 years of building a team, booking 5- and 6-figure video gigs consistently, and I'll give you some practical things that you can do inside of your business today to help move the needle and make the work more enjoyable. You can register for this workshop at studiosherpas.com/workshop. workshop, and I'm excited about it. Hope you can make it. All right, let's jump into the episode with Matt Giovanisci. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Storyblocks. Head to storyblocks.com/Studio Sherpas to learn more about Storyblocks video. Hey, what's up, friends? It is Ryan, and you're listening to the Studio Sherpas podcast, and I'm very excited about my guest today. I feel like I've known of him for a long time, and it wasn't until recently we moved, and we got a pool. We sort of inherited a pool with the house, and it's just having a pool is just, it's work and new things and whatever. And so I Googled, I forget, I can't remember if I was looking for something for our filter or something like that. And this guy, Matt, who I've seen him on these rap videos. I've seen him on some other podcasts and things I listen to. And he's like Swim University, like teaching me how to, and I'm like, wait, what the heck? So then I hopped on Twitter and I just reached out to him. And so with us today is Matt Giovanisci, all the way hailing from, where are you hailing from?
I am hailing from Boulder, Colorado.
Boulder! I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, so glad that you could join us on the show today. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And I loved their response on Twitter. You're like, what's the podcast? I need to just.
Yeah. You just have to look. I've been, I'm in the process of being booked on many shows right now because we're launching.
Yeah, that's part of your jam. Is
part of my jam. I did a thing last year, the year before, where I built this page called Matt Wants to Be a Guest on Your Podcast.
That's where I first saw you.
Oh, okay. So there you go. So yeah, it was just me trying to say, it was my like reverse pitch where I'm like, hey, I'm going to put out this like viral thing that's like the dream like one sheet for every podcaster, but just on a website, but then also make it funny. And I got booked on like 30 shows from that, and it did not move the needle at all for my business. But I'm doing it again because we're launching we have launched a software product for WordPress, and we're just getting booked on a bunch of shows. And my point of all of that is that I do a lot of these, and I forget where I was going with that. But yeah, so it's early, man. I'm in Boulder.
Well, here's Boulder guy, Twitter.
Not from Boulder, from Philly.
From Philly.
Philly, moved to Boulder because it's nice. It's nice here.
Boulder is nice.
Yeah.
I used to live there. So Matt is he's founder of Money Lab. Did you say moneylab.co? Is that when you started?
I do say moneylab.co.
Okay. He's an entertaining entrepreneur, a website wizard, podcast producer, music maker, video veteran, and alliteration addict.
Yeah.
Those are all of the things.
You get it?
Get what? I don't know what you mean.
Yeah. It works better if you read it instead of saying it.
Well, I'll pronounce my P's and M's
better.
Yeah. So, yes, so definitely skilled in the world of video, but also just an entrepreneur at heart. I love the Money Lab website is all about, what do you say? Experiments,
challenges. Yeah, basically it's sort of my, online business journal. I want it. So I run, you mentioned earlier, I run a site called Swim University. I have been running that site for 10 years. I grew up in the pool industry. And I just wanted people to know, like, when people find out that, oh, you're the person behind that, I wanted to show my work, basically. All the work that I do behind the scenes, I wanted a place to sort of, let people see, oh, here's how, my organization, here's my workflow, all that stuff. And then I have, mostly in business, and my philosophy with business is everything is an experiment. And so I wanted to showcase my constant hypothesis of business and then challenge myself to do those things and then measure the outcome. Not that it's like, I'm not using the actual scientific method. I'm just kind of saying, well, I'm going to try to do this in 7 days, or I'm going to try to, optimize YouTube and see, just measure what happens based on like some sort of workflow and print it out there. Just kind of like push it out there with zero bias, zero how to. Like the Money Lab does not tell you what to do. I just tell you what I did. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, either it worked or it didn't, and that's it.
Yeah, it's super interesting. I love as I look at how you've set up your business, I rewind to like, 15 years ago when I
Yeah.
was first starting, and really for the first 5 or 6 years of being a business owner, wanting to chase different things, wanting to try different things, and wanting to document. I mean, you're doing what I had dreamed of doing like long ago. So there's an affinity here. I'm like, man, this guy,
Yeah.
I love that he's doing this. It's super cool.
Took me a while. I was not as organized. I was not as successful. I was, yeah, I mean, it was like, it took me 10 years to be like, okay, I'm comfortable with my business, that I can start to actually like really poke it. I can poke at it and say like, oh, maybe I could do this better. I could do X better. And let's see if that works. Before before when I first started, I didn't know anything. I didn't go to school. I went to high school, but I didn't go to college, and I just worked. I worked at a pool store. I was like a pool guy. And I learned website design because I was in a rock band and we needed a website for our band. And so like, I kind of just like, that just happened. And then I married the two worlds together. I was like, oh, I could design a website. Oh, I know a lot about pools. Oh, I'm not in a band anymore because that didn't work out. So I'm just going to put this up. And my dad used to always say like, musicians make the worst businessmen. And I was like, I hate that. That sucks. So I tried not to do that because I failed at my first, trying to be a quote unquote rock star. And I do believe it had a lot to do with the fact that I was not business savvy. And I just was like, I just want to be signed. I just need to get signed, and then we will be great. And that's kind of not a good long-term strategy, I don't think, for a lot of people, a lot of musicians, because it's like you live and die by that. It's like winning the lottery.
I would say it's very similar, like in the film and video industry, where people are, I want to be a director, I want to make my first feature, and then you realize, like there's a lot more to it, and chances are you're not going to get discovered on your first film, and it's going to take a lot of time and energy and all of that stuff. So at some point, people decide like, okay, well, maybe the dream film that I want to create, like that's just the dream project. So in the meantime, I've got to shoot weddings, or I've got to do videos for businesses or whatever.
Yeah.
So you have to savvy at some point, business savvy. So for you, like what was when did things switch where you're like, I got to like figure out the business side of this stuff?
Yeah. When I jumped in head first, I was doing it on the side for so long. I was working I had an actual job, 9-to-5 job, doing pool marketing. So web pool marketing. So I was doing that and then coming home and then doing that more, but for myself. And that was not fun because that's all day you're thinking about pool algae. When you're on a computer, you're like, oh my God. So
visits, by the way, because I got this problem on the bottom.
Where do you live? Depends on where you live.
Right.
Like maybe I'll fly. No, but yeah. So there's it was a lot of that, and it really didn't it was slow, super slow because it was part time, And
like roughly what years is this?
2007, 8.
Okay.
2007 or 8. And I had started the website in 2004 technically, but then I really didn't start working on it until 2006. And then it was all on the side until I was let go from my job. And at that point, like I was collecting unemployment. I knew I was going to collect unemployment, and I knew I was going to get let go. Like I had a 2-month window of like, this is happening. Yeah. And if this does happen, you need to use this as a opportunity to make Swim University your full-time job. And so
is that just your inner voice telling you? Like your life wisdom saying like,
yeah. So I've always wanted to own my own business forever. I almost started my own pool store with a backer, and I as a kid you do all like this, you sell stuff, pencils, CDs, racers, porn, all that stuff. Yeah, just dabble a little bit. Yeah, as a kid. It was small. Maybe like a 2-month window in my life. Anyway. So it was funny because my business partner has the similar story, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, we're gonna be good friends. So we so basically, I knew I was gonna get let go. And I'm like, all right, I got to use this as like, basically the government's giving you a business loan, man.
Yeah.
And I was really bad with money. I really bad, like had no savings. I owned a condo that I bought with a 600 credit score and zero down payment in 2008. And like, at that point I had this house, I had a BMW because I thought I was a baller. And I was also a consolation prize from a former girlfriend. So like that was that. I was like, oh, I'll have my dream car as a BMW. I had it for like 8 months. And then, so yeah, basically I got let go, got this, like, I had like my basic needs met because I had this unemployment for about a year. And then I moved out of my condo, rented it out, sold my car, moved in with my younger brother, went from like spending $4,500 a month in expenses to about $1,300.
Oh.
And then took, basically just didn't hoard cash. I was also doing website design for clients at the same time to kind of supplement that so that I could work on Swim University, which was making maybe $100 a month. And just sort of like, when I started reading books about money, personal finance books, because if I'm going to start my own business, I can't be in debt. I can't be in any debt, really. And thankfully I didn't go to college, so I didn't have student loan debt, but I did have credit card debt. And so I worked the first few months, I worked to pay that off, which is why I was doing, freelance jobs as a website designer, is like to get that paid off as quickly as possible, because I knew I needed to get to like a baseline.
Yeah.
And then, read personal finance books because I assumed at that point that having good personal finance skills would inform how my business finance skills, which they do, because they're actually very, very similar, especially when you're just like a solo entrepreneur. So yeah, that was that. And I kind of hunkered down and just worked on my stuff and did side, people call them side hustles. I was doing freelance work, and it took probably like 2 years of just straight work before I was able to just get to 40 grand a year with my website.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, oh, I can kind of stop doing freelance work because I can live off 40, because I was living with my brother dirt cheap.
Yeah.
And then was like, all right, now I'm full-time in on that. And of course I did a bunch of other stuff because I'm a creative and I can't just like focus on one thing. I got to do a bunch of other projects. So had I focused on one thing and been like super diligent, which I don't think really anybody is, especially if you're in the creative world. If you are, you should go to the military as well, because they would love you there. But yeah, it's you need to kind of have focus and express your creativity within a certain boundary. Yeah, which has always been something I've tried to do.
Yeah, that's good. So your video journey, like, talk a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, I was. How far do you want me to go back? Because when I was in the band, our first CD, the first like album we put out, was an enhanced CD, which for a local band that did everything themselves, like self-published, was weird. Like, why would you do that? But I filmed like we filmed like a documentary about our band, and I can't even remember the software, but I had a Dell. It was like when Dell was cool, like, when that guy was pitching Dells a lot. Yeah. I had a tower that had, the red, yellow, and white RCA inputs. And that was plugged into a camera that had I think it was like the small mini DV cameras.
Was it a Pinnacle piece of hardware?
It might have been Pinnacle.
Yeah, I think that was.
And it plugged in with VGA to the computer. Mm-hmm. And I forget what software. I think it's this, whatever software came with that, I think I used as my editing software. Because it was, it was a PC, so I wasn't using Premiere. I don't even know if Premiere was a thing at the time. Was Avid? Is Avid now Premiere?
No. Avid.
So Avid is something different.
Yeah.
Okay. So I did use Final Cut 7 because my buddy, who's the videographer that I mentioned before we got on the show, he went to school for this, and he used an old Casablanca deck machine. You know what I'm talking about? Yep. And then we moved to Final Cut 7, so I had a little bit of experience there. And then, we were doing video editing a lot, and it was just with a little, handheld, camcorder. And I did that for a long time, and we just mostly did band stuff. And then just like small videos. I used to do videos when I was like really like 1993. I was doing like, you know, when you're a kid, we tried to recreate the movie Twister with like an old train set. So we had this old train set. We built this, you know, like foam funnel, and we just kind of made it like not stop motion. We just did it with like marionette puppets kind of thing. It was awful and crude, but editing and all that stuff, we did all that. So yeah, I had a lot of, I wanted to do video for forever. And then when I started Swim University, it was pretty much all writing. It was all articles, and I suck at writing. And people, I mean, I may not suck anymore, but I certainly I failed every English class I ever had in high school. And it was part of the reason why I ended up dropping out of college, because of an English teacher who was just very not cool to me. So I ended up writing a lot for Swim U, hated it. And then I was like, why am I not doing video? Like, I love video. Why am I not doing it? And so I borrowed my boss at the time. I borrowed his camera and his lapel mic, and I filmed my second video for Swim University, which was like a full 18-minute. Like, I wanted it to make it a TV show was the idea. And it was a full 18-minute video on how to open an in-ground pool. And I had it fully scripted. I scripted everything out. And my dad filmed it. I was at my friend's house who had a pool. And yeah, that was the first video we put out. And I remember like I did that and a few other ones. And it started moving the needle on the site. And you know, perhaps it was the fact that I was writing articles too, and that was gaining traction. But I kept telling myself that it's video that's doing this. It's the video that's, you know, making this happen. And then the real turning point for Swim University was when I did the rap video. And that was something where I wanted, you know, as a creative, you want to flex your muscles. But if you flex your muscles outside of your business, that really doesn't help your business.
Right.
So I always try to think like, all right, I want to do something creative. And so let me at least do that, but constrain myself so that it actually helps my business in some small way. And so that's when I did a rap video about pool care. And that did super well. I mean, if you look at it now on YouTube, I think it only has like 90,000 views, which is because it's old as hell. Yeah. But everybody in the pool industry linked to it. You know, which was not what I was expecting. And I was like, oh, I got a ton of backlinks for doing this. And I was not expecting that. And then I just like started doing videos regularly. And then I stopped, which sucked because it's hard. You know, video, it wasn't the biggest problem for me was I was doing it alone. I was going out into a pool and it was hot as, you know, yeah, okay, censor myself. Hot, very hot out. And I was just like constantly sweating and just standing in front of a camera. And it kind of just got old, and it wasn't my pool. It wasn't easy to do. I had to like schedule it with my buddy who owned a pool. I had to go out there. I had to set up the tripod. I had to make sure the lapel mic was connected to the camera. I was using a Canon XA10 at the time, which was like the low end professional camcorder. And I forget the name of the lapel mic that I was using, but it was a wireless lapel mic. And yeah, that was what I did. And a lot of my earlier Swim University videos, like I have credits at the end, and I always reference the tripod as like my videographer, because it's like, so yeah. And I kind of stopped because I moved and couldn't really do it anymore. And I've since kind of come back from that. So it's been really, really helpful.
Yeah. So just to give us some reference here, Swim University is your like main
bread and butter. Yep.
Okay. And Money Lab and all the other stuff you're doing, some of it makes, I mean, do you make any significant money that it's like, oh, I could actually, you know, I could replace my Swim University income with this?
Yes. Money Lab probably does about 20 grand a year. And if I just 100% focused on that, I could certainly turn it into that, because it is more, you know, it's a B2B type business, because I'm talking to, you know, people like you. Yep. And the courses are not, you know, direct to consumer. So with Swim University, a lot of the products that I sell are to just people who own a pool. So it's more of a necessity buy. Whereas with Money Lab, I'm selling higher priced courses to people who are trying to become successful with their businesses. And Brew Cabin is my other business, which is a home brewing website that I own.
Yeah.
And I started that 2 years ago. And it's very similar to Swim University in that it is an authority site, you can call it. It has 0 video, which is on purpose because of an experiment that I'm working on. And there is that probably does about 12,000 a year. So again, if I focused on it the way I focused on Swim University, I think I could get it to at least 40 grand by next year. And it's like a side thing that I'm kind of working on, but it's more about diversifying my income streams.
Yeah.
Based on what I can do. So, yeah.
So when you have a new idea, I think as filmmakers and entrepreneurs, one of our biggest weaknesses is this shiny new opportunity. Like you get stuck on a project. It's like get distracted. Okay, I know I can do this. So you hop over here. How do you measure like what opportunities you're gonna pursue, new ideas, if potential client comes to you and wants you to do something? How do you measure whether or not it's something worth? I'll be right back with my interview with Matt Giovanisci right after this. Hey, if you want to make more money in your video business, you got to work smarter, not harder. And as I've learned that, I have come full circle in how I view stock footage. Stock footage used to be the worst, literally the worst. Terrible quality and super small selection. There have been so many projects where we just needed one shot of something pretty specific that we didn't get for whatever reason, or the client just requested totally last minute. I'm sure that's never happened to you, right? Well, someone turned us on to Storyblocks years ago, and it has really added to our edits without breaking the bank and without compromising the quality of the production. They have an enormous library of stock footage, and with the unlimited video plan, you get access to everything, including HD and 4K footage, After Effects templates, motion backgrounds, and more. We have saved our clients and ourselves a ton of money, and we saved a couple of projects that needed that one special shot. Use your content anywhere you like, including YouTube. All content is royalty-free, so you can use it for commercial and personal projects. And new content is added regularly, so there's always something fresh to download. Head over to storyblocks.com/Studio Sherpas to get all the stock footage, audio, and images you need.
That's a great question because I think about this a lot. I used to be an opportunity whore. I used to take everything. I would say no to nothing. That's very easy when you have not a lot of money coming in. Like I said, I have a friend who is a videographer, and I know in this first 2 years of starting his company, it was like, yeah, I'll do it. I'll do that. I'll do that for free because it's an opportunity to get more business. And I remember he said he took a job that paid basically nothing. It was shooting something at like a high school musical type of a situation. And then he had to burn a bunch of DVDs, and then he would make money selling the DVDs to the parents. And I was like, what? And he had to travel 2 hours to get to this high school, and he had to stay overnight in a hotel, and they didn't put up any of the money for it. And I was like, why? But it was a Wednesday. You know what I mean? So he had no weddings booked. He had nothing booked on a Wednesday. He's like, I'll take it. I'm like, but now you have to do it. And you are losing money on this. And I understand that mindset because I had that mindset. I said yes to everything. I still have friends who have been doing this work, starting their own businesses, who have been in it for almost as long as I have. And I still see it in them. I still get emails like, yo, have you seen this? Have you seen that? Yes, I've seen this all. Just, I don't want it because it is distracting. And so the way that I make decisions is there's a lot of things in this world that I could do to increase my revenue on all my businesses. I guess that I think is like, am I going to have fun doing it? And if I'm not, if it's just like, or if it's like two things. Am I going to have fun? And is it repeatable without me involved? So will it turn into an opportunity to like really increase my revenue for the long term, or is it just like a one-off thing? Because if it's a one-off thing, then I'm not doing it. That's hard for me to say yes to. But if it's like, oh, a one-off thing that can lead to many more, long-term things, then yeah, okay, I'll consider that a little bit more. The biggest thing is it what my company does? I had to spend 2 years ago, I sat down with somebody, just a consultant of mine, like a friend of mine, and we just kind of narrowed down like what my business does.
Yeah.
And we ended up coming up with I'm a digital publisher. I publish digital media. That's it, right? So we built this software and we were selling the software. And I'm like, that's not what my company does. And I shut it down. So I'm like, we don't do that. And I had all these other people I was working with, and I'm like, this is stupid. This is not what my company does. And then I used to have a coffee site, and someone was like, hey, do you want to start a coffee subscription service because you had this like high traffic coffee site? And I'm like, that's not what my company does. We don't sell coffee direct to consumers. That's not what we do. And so once you get incredibly clear on what your business does, very specifically, you can easily say no to everything else, and then you can find opportunities in what your company does. So for example, my company does not sell robotic pool cleaners direct to consumer because we are not an e-commerce business. However, we are a digital media business. So that means we can create courses, we can create downloadables, we can create things that are media based but still have value to them. And so that just completely sets us apart. And it allows us, like, when a company comes to me and says, oh, we're this company, we can make you this awesome robotic pool cleaner as long as you set it on your website, blah, blah, blah. And I can be like, we don't do that. Thanks. No, thanks.
There's a lot of freedom in being able to say like, oh, sorry, that's not us, versus, the opportunity horror where you're just like, yeah, I guess a new opportunity, we could make some money. Sure. Like, let's consider it.
Totally. And being a jack of all trades is sort of a detriment, right? Because it's like, I can do a lot of things. It's the question of, should you do a lot of things?
Right. Yeah, no, that's perfect. And I think for my friends that are listening to this episode, when you say like, yeah, when you get incredibly clear on what your business does, we can think like, oh, well, we do video.
Yeah.
And we can think that that's good enough. But
no, yeah.
But it's not, to your point of like, if I could have the power and the ability to know when to say no, it's kind of like, say no to drugs, say no to video opportunities that aren't a good fit for you. It's like, yes, you'll get paid, but is it going to detract you from your mission, really the way that you bring the most value to the world through the kinds of videos that you do? And just because somebody needs 1,000 DVDs duplicated, that make sense for you to buy a duplicator or to outsource it and then to manage the process and learn how to manage the process for all those DVDs and all, just the whole thing? Or does that take away from what your core business should be all about?
That example, like, I've heard this before, and it's so hard to say no to that, right? When you have a client, like, you're doing a wedding. They're doing a wedding. Like, I want to buy DVDs for everyone who attended the wedding. You're like, oh, and your brain's like, yeah, well, I got a guy, or I can do that, or yeah, we can do that. And then you realize, when you start doing it, like, I'm not making any money off of this, and this sucks, right? Yep. But I got money, and it's extra, right? But what a lot of people, especially in the beginning, and I don't want to say a lot of people, I don't want to generalize, but it was very easy for me to say, yes, I'll do that.
Yep.
And then not measure the time that it took.
Totally.
So, for example, and I know this is not video related, but I used to sell sponsorships on Swim University. So I used to go to these pool companies and say, hey, do you want to advertise on our email newsletter, on our website, blah, blah, blah. And I would charge, the biggest contract I ever got was about $10,000. And it was from one company who got, to me, I just kept thinking, oh my God, the easiest thing is to just put a JPEG in an email. Oh my God, how easy could it get? And what you fail to realize is that it took you 2 months of back and forth emails to pitch to this client and to close this client. And it's not just the hours in the pitch, it is the emotional taxing that goes into that pitch.
Yeah.
And then it's like all this time wasted when you could have been doing something else if you don't get the sale. And that is just, and we stopped because I was like, that's not what we do. We do not sell that. We do, you know, it's not part of our business model. Our business model is publishing digital media. So let's sell the digital media, some of the digital media we publish, as opposed to getting sponsors to just, you know, help us out with that digital media, which is certainly a way to go. It's just, we weren't good at it, and we decided that was not what we wanted to do. When it comes to video, yeah, when you say like we do video, of course, if you do video, like you could do corporate clients, you can do weddings, you could do anything. You could travel 10 miles, you can travel, you know, 10 plane trips. It doesn't matter. I think in the beginning, it's very easy to just, I know it's so hard to say this because it's like in hindsight, yeah, of course, it'd be so easy to be like, say no to that client who wants 1,000 DVDs. Say no to that client who wants me to fly to Pittsburgh, do whatever. But if you're super clear on what you want and what you're able to do, like, hey, we only do videos in a 50-mile radius of where we're located. We only do weddings. We don't do DVDs. We send digital media files, and they can, and we'll give them, what do you call it? Like references of where they can get their DVDs printed. That's easy. And you take less money, but you have more time. And then once you've mastered that, once you've owned that 50-mile radius and you have the tightest system ever, where you, the person who owns the company, is basically just the master director of everything, which is the greatest position to be in. It's hard if you're a creative, because I know a lot of people who do this work are creatives to begin with, and then they get into this and they want to be creative. And it's hard to go from being in your business to working on your business. But once you're there, you've mastered it. Well, now you can set your sights a little bigger. Now you can go, we do weddings and we do corporate, and we're still in the 50-mile radius, and we're whatever. And then you just expand the business, you expand the portfolio, and then you can go, now we're 100-mile radius. Now we do, big corporate clients as opposed to small, medium corporate clients. So I think that it is a skill, yes, you can do everything, but if you narrow it and then build from there, it's a lot more manageable, and you can scale a lot faster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. My personal experience, the first 6 months of me doing video when I went full time, I was doing videos for our church. I was doing videos at the college that I just graduated from. I was doing videos for Grandpa's 80th birthday,
right?
Photos. And so I got to try so many different things. And then 6 months in, I had a really good friend of mine who kind of got me into doing video. He's a photographer. He was shooting a wedding. He said, hey, they don't have a wedding filmmaker, actually a videographer. What are you doing on Saturday? They got $500. I'm like, sure, I'll do it. Yeah. Shot, loved it. I was like, oh my gosh, I could change the world with the wedding films that I create. So then at that point I said, okay, this is what I want to do. And that was when I picked a focus. And that's when we pursued that for a bunch of years. So my suggestion for so many people, like, I'm always like, oh, no, you can't do everything. You can't be the jack of all trades. But my personal experience was I got to try a bunch of different things. And you're listening and you're in a day job and you're like, I hate it. I want to get out. How do I transition out? I would say right now, try so many different things. See what you like. See, maybe you love producing or duplicating 1,000 DVDs.
Right.
That could be your jam, but you don't really know until you try it. Sometimes you just got to say like, yeah, we'll do it. You don't make any money. Always try to charge a lot more than you think it's going to cost, because it ends up taking way more time. You've got to learn about it. You've got there's just way more at stake. So I 6 months in, a year in, 3 months, I don't know what it takes, but at some point, exactly what you're saying, Matt, you've got to just say like, okay, here is what we do and here's what we don't do. I don't think you need to come out of the gate today if you're just starting and say, we're only doing weddings, or we're only doing corporate, or we're only doing duplication. You start there and then you try stuff and see what you like and see what you don't, but you can't do that for your career.
I agree with that. That's
pick, settle, and focus. And then to your point of like, perfecting that, getting a process, and it's not going to be perfect, but your process is repeatable. Then you can be kind of where we're at today, where I have a project manager. I have somebody that's operating the business. When you have that kind of organization, it's like, well, shoot, we can still do weddings if we want, but we're rocking these business videos, and we could do duplication. We've got partners that we're not going to do it, but we know that we need to charge this much in order to make up for all the time and the headaches. And I'm not the one that's in the mix there. I'm just telling our project manager, hey, like, reach out to our outsourcing partner and, work with them and make this happen. And that's when it can work. But if you're the bottleneck of like, we could figure this out. Let me figure this out. We're going to make some money.
Yeah.
Taken away from your greatest asset, your greatest resource, which is yourself, which is you should be doing the thing that you're really made to do.
Yeah, and it's like, do you want to be the key grip or do you want to be the director of your movie?
Right.
Be the director. It's just, the thing is it's easier said than done. But people, it's like your business has to kind of be self-aware at a certain point. Like, yeah, I agree. Like when you go out, like I did this too. Like you go out and you just do everything. It's like, I mean, again, as a creative person, you go out and just, you want to make stuff.
Yeah.
And you just try to make it, I can do photos. I'm not great at photos, but I can do it. And I like the idea of doing it. I'm not the best videographer, but I can go out there and make something that looks pretty decent. I'm not the best writer, but I could cobble together some sentences and make it legible. I want to try all these things, and I'm probably not going to master any of these things because I have so many interests, right? But we in that pursuit, you find out what is actually moving the needle and what's not. And you go, okay, cool. Let's hone in on that and let's move that. Let's make that needle like really go to 11, right? Let's push that all the way. And then once you start doing that, it's so hard because I wasn't like this in the beginning. It took me years to get here. I know that if I had some sort of mentor or somebody who would tell me this earlier, I would have been like, oh my God, lifesaver. But this idea of being self-aware of your business, it's like, you're in it, man. You're doing the work.
Yep. Step
out of it for a second. It's so hard to do, but like, even like, you ever get in a fight with somebody?
No.
And no, you never been in a fight? Not a physical fight, but just like an argument with a friend, girlfriend, wife, whatever, husband, cover all the bases. And have you ever like
uncle, grandma, grandpa?
Oh yeah, grandma, grandpa, like,
whatever.
Right. But you get in an argument. Have you ever like in the middle of an argument stopped or like did like an out of body experience where you're like, hey, I'm being me. I'm being the jerk here. Right. That idea, like, try that. If you can do it, it's so weird to be like, you stop yourself. You're like, you know what? I'm being unreasonable. I'm sorry. No, can we just reconvene and like, I'll come back with a fresher head. Like, holy crap. If you could do that in your business, that's the same thing. It's like, all right, hold on a second, guys, back up. What are we doing here?
Yep.
Let's look at this. And then I'll tell you what, the best business decisions I've ever made have not been to move into something new. It's been to stop something that sucks.
Yeah.
That's been so freeing. And it's like, now I have all the time in the world because I have so little to do, but the little things that we do, we're heavily focused on, and they actually move the needle in our business. So yeah, it's easier said than done. I understand.
We have a paid course, and the very first part of the course is it's all about getting clarity, and it's all about and when you can get in it, and it's people are like, they want to get to the sales and the marketing stuff. I want to be able to sell better. I want to get bigger projects and whatever. And yes, you can get there, but it's all about taking a step back, taking a couple breaths, and just saying like, okay, what the heck am I trying to do here? What is my ultimate goal? What's bringing me the most satisfaction? Who can I serve the best? What kind of videos do we make that are the best, that are the most fulfilling, the most rewarding, the most profitable, all of those things, because we don't do that. We don't take the time to do that. And unless we're hiring a business coach and having somebody walk us through that and ask us those hard questions, that's just the next best piece of advice, is to like, okay, go to Starbucks, go to your quiet place or whatever. Don't shoot anything. Don't edit anything. Don't open any emails. Sit with a pen and paper, iPad, whatever, and just start thinking like, what is working in my business?
Right.
What's not working in my business?
I will say though, I've heard that advice so much. The advice that I'm saying right now, I've heard it so much. I ignored it because I'm like, dude, that's not work.
Right.
Get down and do something. figure it out, barrel through it. And I still do that. I still do it that way.
Yep.
However,
stop.
There was one time where a friend of mine said, you need to read this book. It's called Traction. It's by Gino Wickman. You know what I'm talking about?
He's a Detroit guy. I don't think you knew that.
And I did not know that. No. Gino, I thought he was from my neck of the woods. Is that a Philly boy? All right. Oh. Well, so he's like, read the book. It's great. And I was like, okay. And I had just met this guy, and I was like, all right, yeah, I'm gonna take him up on it. I'm not really a business book person anymore, but when I read just the first chapter, I was like, oh, okay. Like, they want me to sit down and like get clear on my business. I'm like, all right. Well, I just like kind of like powered through the rest of the book. And I realized that like, oh no, you kind of have to do the first part in order to work your way through the book. Cause it's more of a workbook than it is an actual like novel. You don't read it all the way, like start to finish. So I had to buy the actual copy of the book because I had it on my iPad, and I'm like, well, this isn't going to work because I need to be able to flip back and forth and like draw in it and stuff. Right. And I decided to just do it. I'm like, I kind of like set my bullheadedness aside, and I'm like, all right, let's do chapter 1. Like, let's sit down and actually do chapter 1. It was my girlfriend and a friend of mine who, again, it was a consultant, sat in my living room, and we were just trying to figure out like what my company does. Yeah. And one of the best things I ever did. And because then I said no to a lot of things after that. I went into email, and I was like, oh, I'm going to stop doing that. I'm going to stop doing that. I'm going to shut that down. That is not working. Like, we just don't do those things. No. And that book was the one that changed it for me. And it also talks a lot about how to build a team out. And when you build a team, they kind of, I think the philosophy in that book is like, you don't have a lot of hierarchy. It's kind of like really shallow, where it's like you, and then the product manager below you, and then everybody else. Yep. And then the other book too, that was helpful in sort of looking at it, because that book was certainly helpful. And that's sort of a framework for how to set up your business and how to work on your business. The other one, which it's hard for me to recommend because I know it's fake, but the E-Myth Revisited. Yep. You read that one? Yeah. So the story in it is fake. There is no, it's about a bakery. There is no bakery. It's more of an allegory to how to think of your business as a turnkey operation. But that philosophy and that understanding of like, I have a team of about 5 people right now. And they're all like, I love them all, and they're all very good at what they do. But we've developed such a tight like SOP for each role that if they ever were to leave, like God forbid they were to ever leave me and go somewhere else, I would be able to fill their role very quickly, because I know they have a very specific set of tasks to do. And especially with video editing, I just hired my first video editor for my YouTube channel, and we're kind of working out the kinks. But I had been working on an SOP for myself for 2 months prior to hiring this person. So I would sit down and edit a video, and I would write down every decision I was making while I was editing, and then that way when he came on board, I'm like, here's my decision making matrix. And then here's a video of me editing a video from start to finish. Watch this first, and then hit me up with a video in Frame or whatever, and we'll go through it. And then even as I go through Frame, which I'm sure you're familiar with Frame, right? It's like
Frame.io.
Frame.io. Yeah. So as we're going through the edits that he's doing, I'm even making more notes of the decisions I'm making on his edits, so that I can go back into the SOP and change my decisions and stuff. So that is the idea. That's like the quintessential idea of working on your business instead of in it. Not super fun to do, but very helpful in the long run.
Yeah, I think that you bring up a good point, and definitely a topic I wanted to talk about is outsourcing. And as it's probably the most frustrating part of owning a video business, where it just takes so much time. I mean, it's like, first you have to land the client, then you have to actually, come up with the idea, then you produce the idea, then you have to edit the idea. And that is just a huge time suck. So my advice to anybody that's in this business is kind of like they're stuck, they're frustrated. It's probably because they're doing most of the editing and they don't have enough time to be shooting. And their biggest value might be filming. And maybe they're a great editor, but there are a lot of great editors out there and people that can just and some of those editors can't sell. You know, they shouldn't be selling. They shouldn't be in that seat. But as the founder of your company and the point person, you're probably the most passionate. You are the most passionate person about the brand. And so in order to experience a little bit of life and some freedom that you deserve as a business owner, you have to outsource at least parts in it. That, it's not, I'm not suggesting that you have to hire somebody 40 hours a week, a full-time employee, but talk a little bit about the experience you've had and advice that you might suggest for people that are maybe they're not even considering outsourcing, but they should be.
Well, I wanted to ask, what is your advice for somebody who believes that only they can edit their own videos?
Well, the weird thing is this is my show and I ask the questions.
All right.
So,
but I'm curious because I feel like I need to tell that. I don't know what to say to people. Like, I understand why I do it because I realize, like, I feel like, again, like when I said we did all this work about working on your business, like I'm fully aware of that. But a story that I had early was when I hired my first writer for Swim University. Right before I hired this person, I had told myself this story for 6 years, which was no one knows pool care the way you know it. Mm-hmm. No one has your voice, and no one can write about pool algae off the top of their head and be funny and be lengthy and be thorough and, have your sentence structure and all of these things. You are a golden goose. You are a unicorn in this space. You are screwed for ever finding anybody. And that's a story that sometimes I will still tell myself in certain aspects. But my girlfriend was like, well, that's BS. And I was like, why? When she's a writer. And she was like, people can write. And I was like, okay, fine. And I was like, kind of like, fine. Just fine. I'll find somebody. I found one guy through a friend, mutual friend. And I sent him a title, just a title. And I said, just come back to me with something. I didn't give him zero direction. But I gave him my website. So he had sort of like, oh, this is his, the first article he wrote, I was like, how did you do this? He's like, I'm like, how did you know about this? He goes, I Googled it. I'm like, right. He's like, I did my research and then I wrote it. And then I listened to how, like, I read a bunch of your articles and I sort of like understood your voice. And then I saw what you wanted and I saw the title. I did my research and I put it together and here it is. I was like, oh my God. Okay. Wow. I didn't give anybody any credit at all. And he wasn't even expensive. He was just a guy who wanted freelance work. And he was a doctor. So like he had good research skills. Yeah. And I worked with him for 3 years before I went to another person who was even even better. Like she's a writer. Like that's what she does. And she knows how to research. And she does not own a pool. She does not own a hot tub, knew nothing about it before joining the company. It took her about 4 months of like going back and forth to kind of get the sound and to get the pacing and to understand, like, because I had to review a lot of it. And the more I reviewed, the more you start to slowly unpack what it is. But if you're an erratic person and you don't have a very rigid template yourself and you're just throwing like, nah, I don't like that. Yep. Well, just saying I don't like that isn't really good direction, right? You have to say why you don't like it, or, and the other part of it too was I had to be okay with it not being me doing it. Yeah. Hey, it's not perfect, but it is way better than what anybody else could do. And I didn't have to actually sit there and do it. So, and it will only get better from here the more guidance I give as we go forward. And that was a huge eye opener for me. But then I kind of got hire happy because I thought, well, shit, if they can do that, I'm just going to hire everybody. Like, oh, you do that for me, you do that for me. And then I overspent, and then I had to like let people go, get back to basics again. And then that was when I started to get clear on, that's like kind of the moment where I got clear on like what we do as a business. Cause I hired a salesperson to do, sponsorship stuff. I had somebody doing like digital web stuff, and just had all these people and, 3 writers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. 3 writers and an editor on top of them. And it was like, we don't need to produce this much because it's not really what we do. And so we like scaled back, and it was like, oh, we're still growing, and yet we don't have to pay twice the amount of people. So, that was really hard to get through. But then once I got through it, it was like, oh, your eyes just open. But if you are, it really depends. The thing you have to work on, I think, is how to be a manager and how to talk to people. Yeah. Because I think there was definitely people that I had worked with, and an example that I have is I hired what I thought was going to be a good salesperson to do sponsorship sales for Swim University. And what I did was I thought, well, I'm not going to hire a salesperson. I'm going to hire somebody with a personality, because I believed at the time that anybody could be trained to sell sponsorships as long as they knew how to talk to people and respond to the emails. So I had built out this 5 email drip sequence. So basically that was the application process. So you would go onto my website, fill out your email address if you wanted to be a salesperson. That's all you had to do. And you got an email. And the email was like, the next 5 emails, you're going to literally sell to a robot, right? So each email that went out, I was measuring how fast the response time was and how personable the emails were, and if they were saying the right things or not, with 0 guidance. And one person was a clear winner, and I hired that person. She had no experience in sales whatsoever. And unfortunately, I had no process. I kind of wanted her to figure it out, and she got so stressed out that within a month she was like, I can't do this. This is awful. And she, like it was an amicable split, but I realized that like I had not done it and had not had a way to do it, and my process was completely all over the place. And so trying to give that chaos to someone else is just going to cause stress, because they're not involved in the business. And when you don't even know how to answer their questions, because you're like, well, we could do it this way or we could do it that way. And it's like, dude, give me direction. I need help, and not everyone's like that, but I think that was an eye opener for me, that I needed to do the process and figure it out first, and then basically just replace myself. Yep. So I had to be like a robot with editing. And this is what I did recently was I developed a filming process that is repeatable. And I keep telling my friend who's the videographer, and correct me if you think that this is a crazy thought, because I don't do weddings. I've used to DJ weddings, so I've been to a million of them. Yeah. But I am not a videographer for weddings. But aren't all weddings basically the same? Right?
Yes. Generally speaking, sure. Yes.
Okay. Is it possible to develop a checklist of shots to get?
Yes.
Okay. So if that's true, then couldn't you refine a checklist that you could hand to any person who was a qualified and good videographer to just be like, hey, as long as we get these shots, I can build the story in editing? And that was what I was like, okay, because I was helping him out, but I've never done it. And so the same thing I did for my own videos was I developed a checklist for myself to be like, you have to hit these beats in your videos, or so that the editor knows how to edit those videos together. And it's like, okay, make sure this comes first, this comes second, this comes third. If this, then that, like if I say X, or if the bride does this, flip it and do that. And like over time, you start to you see the trends, and you start to say, okay, well, like obviously there are outliers. There's like a weird thing that somebody's going to do at the wedding. Like one, the maid of honor might do some crazy dance that's like completely choreographed with the entire wedding party. And it's like, well, that was unexpected. That wasn't part of our checklist. And it's just like, in that moment, you kind of have to know how to adapt.
Yep.
Right. But other than that, like there is a framework that can be put in place. And that's what I did with my videos. And then when I handed it to my editor, it was like, hey, go watch these last 10 videos that I did. It's the same. Like you can kind of see the pattern as an editor. And for me, the most important thing with an editor was just timing.
Yeah.
As long as he was good at timing. And that was, I'm like, all right, well then everything else could be taught. I feel like timing is one of those things like, that's kind of like you either have it or you don't.
Yep.
So, yeah. So I've had this guy, he's done 4 videos for me so far. It has been a cakewalk so far. He lives locally. So we work through Frame. We work through Google Drive, and I'm still doing everything around it. So like I still film, I still upload to him. He edits, we go through Frame. I make some changes. We do 2 to 3 rounds of editing. And because again, he doesn't know everything about pool care. So I have to go, oh, that's the wrong shot for that. Mm-hmm. And that's like, I'm okay with that because, over time he'll get it. Over time doing multiple videos like this, he'll get it. And I think it just requires time. And usually when I tell people about anything about outsourcing is like, give it 6 months.
Yeah.
Really, if you really like the person and you see that they have potential, give it 6 months and be incredibly patient. And yeah, you're not, and don't be a helicopter parent. You don't have to like hover over them and make sure that they're doing things right. They're not going to do things the way you do them. And you're going to have to be okay with that because you have a company to run.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and more times than not, when working with an editor, it's your own, by not giving them the space to be able to create, to try stuff.
Yeah.
It's the most challenging because I just had a conversation yesterday with somebody where we were talking about like, this probably makes sense for you to hire an editor. But what you're going to be tempted to do is you're going to see the first version and you're going to be like, oh gosh.
Yeah.
I can spend 30 minutes writing an email or making a quick little video to like tell them like all of the things that need to be fixed. Or I could just jump right in there and make all the changes and the fixes myself. And that's going to be way quicker to that way. Well, when you decide that, then you're not training anybody. You're not teaching anybody what your thought process. So I love how you were just talking about like, getting your thought process out. Yep. So that people know how you are making decisions. Because as soon as somebody can start to understand that, and starting to understand that exactly, I mean, it takes 6 months. It takes a long time. It takes a bunch of projects. So, if you work with an editor, you don't like the first version, well, guess what? You probably didn't give good enough instructions. Like that's probably where we could start. That's
everything, right? Because even so my girlfriend edits my podcast, right? And even so, she's been doing it for about, I think, 6 months now. And she has never opened up Logic Pro in her life, which is, audio editing software. And yet here she is editing my podcast. And even yesterday, she's like, she didn't have my decision matrix. Like, should I do the EQ first and then put compression on? And then what is compression? And then what is EQ? And it's like, okay, it made me sit there, and I still need to do this with her. It made me sit there and go, okay, let's sit down. Let me do it. Let me actually do it start to finish, but record every single decision I'm making, right? Write that down. Okay, now take this and do it for the next one. So she'll take my, instructions, the next podcast episode, she'll do it. Come back to me and I'll listen to it and go, okay, I'll make a tweak maybe here and there. And I'll go back through my list. Instead of just doing it and not saying anything, do it and then write it down. And then you just keep refining that list over and over again until it's almost foolproof. Like she can't mess up. And she doesn't have to know what compression is. Right. Like she doesn't have to understand the science of it. And just like anyone who does editing, like doesn't have to know why. Yeah. It's just like, for a simple thing that I do is I don't like jump cuts. I don't like single, going from one frame to the next frame with no action or movement. So I have a rule in our SOP for the editor. Anytime you have to make a jump cut, zoom in at least 20% or zoom out if you're already zoomed in 20%. That's it. And so it creates a lot of energy, and I just like that. But that's just the rule, you know? And so he doesn't have to go, should I or should I not? The rule is yes or no. It's very binary, you know? And then over time, there are going to be parts that do not fit the rule book. And you're going to have to look at that and say, is this an outlier, or is this going to happen again and it needs to be added to the SOP, right? And so the other thing too is, my girlfriend helped me, and this was the one I really thought was impossible. And this may be helpful, especially for people in sales for video work. I do not answer any emails on Swim University. So a lot of our visitors email in with questions. I have algae. I have cloudy water. I have all these things. I am not the person who answers those emails. And I used to be, as of like a year ago. I answered every email because I'm like, I would write to them. Oh, well, like, you know, if you have 10,000 gallons, you need to add a pound of shock, blah, blah, blah. And I would literally be writing this over and over again to the same people. And she was like, well, that's silly. Why are you doing that? Why are you doing this work? Because it feels like you don't, like, you're the business owner. You don't have to be doing this work, but these questions have to be answered. And so I was like, yes, but then who am I going to hire? And I kept saying, like, who am I going to hire that knows the information that I have in my head and can present that, you know, how can I hire a second me that's way cheaper, right? And so you don't. And you have to sit there and go, okay, well, so I didn't do this because I couldn't do it. I literally was so involved and knew so much that I was incapable of coming up with the SOP for how to answer emails. So the way she did it was, it's if-and statements. If they email in with a question, first, search our website. Do we answer that question already? If no, go to Google. Type in their question. Did someone else answer it? Yes. Then send them that, right? If it's an equipment question and they need help with something, find the manual on Google, send them the manual, and then at the end of every email, say, I hope this answers your question. If you want more information on pool care, we have a book for sale. Here's $5 off for emailing us in. You know, here's a coupon code. That works. So now I don't answer any emails, and every email becomes a sales pitch, a soft sales pitch for our product. So now not only does it, like, do I not have to do it, we actually make money at doing it, right? Easy. Right. So and I couldn't even wrap my head around it. But when I saw, like, we have a Google Doc that's like, and then there's sections of, you know, some people come in, they email in because they want, to buy a link from us. And I'm like, archive it or delete it. You know, we have like rules, just delete these emails, just archive these emails. But it took 6 months of these emails coming in to create that giant, like, mass filter, so that it just, you know, at first emails were leaking through because, like, you know, you go through the process and then it's like, well, if none of these things fit, then send it to Matt, right? So send it to me, I'll look at it. And so what I would do is every time an email would leak to me, I would look at that email and go, can I add this to the SOP instead of answering it? So I would never answer the email. I would first answer the email, put it in the SOP, send it to my assistant and go, this is how we do this now. Yeah. Okay, great. So now I never get those emails. And so over time, it filters out to where, like, I may get one email a month that, like, only I could answer because it came in from some, like, you know, partnership affiliate thing that I need to deal with. But other than that, yeah, I don't answer emails, and we get about 100 a day.
Wow.
So
yeah, my advice to people when trying to think through, you know, outsourcing or whatever, or maybe they don't think they need to outsource. I always say, like, write a list of things that you love doing in your business.
Oh yeah.
And then make a list of things that you absolutely hate doing. And if you could stop doing them today, you would be so happy. And start with that number one and try to think through, is there a way to offload this to somebody else? And I feel like it could sound super tedious
Mm-hmm.
and like a lot of work to create some sort of standard operating procedure. And then where do you put it? And then
Yeah.
the person just can't figure it out. And then I've got to find the right person. So it can sound like a lot of work, but
Mm-hmm.
what you're doing, if you want something that's a business and that can run without you in certain aspects, then you have to be able to have places for people to go to understand how to do this. So it's an investment in your business.
Yes.
You might be maybe you're spending time with the wrong editor, but in the meantime, you're creating
Learning.
you're learning, and you're documenting that stuff. So when you are working with somebody you're outsourcing to, whatever, make sure that you're writing that stuff out so that the things that you're teaching them, it's not going to just be for that person, but it's going to be for the next person. Because, maybe somebody will stay with you for 20 years and maybe somebody will stay with you for 20 days. You don't want to lose out on that 20 days of documenting back and forth conversation. How's a better way to do this? But once it's done, it's done.
Yeah.
And then it serves your business. It becomes something you don't have to do anymore. I mean, the fact, Matt, that you're not having to check 100 emails and answer 100 emails a day, is that amazing?
It was one of the biggest like reliefs in my life.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know it at the time because, it takes 2 seconds to answer an email. It takes 2 seconds. You say that enough and those seconds add up.
Totally.
I actually did that exercise, what you just mentioned of writing down things that I love doing and things that I hate doing. But we did it where my editor and I sat down and said things that we have to do, like things that we actually do, right? In our day to day. And we wrote it down and we looked at it and said, 2 decisions. What can we stop doing altogether? And then what do we actually have to do that we don't have to do?
Yep. I love
it. And that was it. And it was like, okay. So we ended up, I think I deleted like half the things that I did throughout the day, because one of them was, and this maybe doesn't apply to everybody, but social media. I was posting stuff on social media through Buffer or whatever I was using and Pinterest and all that. And I said, well, this is something I do every day. Well, okay, well, a VA can do it, right? An assistant can do this. Somebody I can hire can do this. But then I was like, wait, should I even do this?
Yeah.
And so, well, then you have to think, well, why do I do it? Well, I do it because I want traffic to my website, right? That's why I do it? Okay, fine. So I went to Google Analytics and saw that it was providing less than 1% of my overall traffic. So I was like, okay, I think we can nip that and not do that. And I didn't have to pay somebody to do it, and we don't have to do it at all. It wasn't adding to the bottom line. And so not only do you have to look at, can someone else do it? Because honestly, everybody can do anything.
Right. Totally.
Like you know what I mean? You're not special. And that's, something I tell myself constantly, and it's humbling. You're not special. You might think you are, and you might think you're the only one. And yes, you are going to care more for sure. But if you give somebody enough like leeway and ownership, and they feel that ownership in your business, they may outcare you one day. Because I'm certainly feeling that a little bit, especially in my business. Like I definitely think that my editor cares a little bit more than I do, just a little bit more. And so it's like, but she runs her ship. Like she owns it. And because it took 6 months to get her up and running, and I'm just like, and I go to her and be like, what do you think we should do? Because I don't know. Like, what do I know? She's like, I think we should not do that. Great. We don't have to do that. Or, oh yeah, we should totally do that. Here's an idea. Great. Yeah. And you now have a collaborative partner instead of just somebody who works for you. And that is the greatest feeling ever, because you're not alone.
Yep.
So
Matt, man, this is rich. I feel like we can keep going. There were like 5 more questions that I had on here.
You want to do rapid fire?
Yeah, let's do rapid fire. Let's see how quick you can answer this one.
All right.
Biggest surprise in one of your experiments? That's not really rapid fire material, but let's just
wait. Biggest surprise in one of my experiments. My biggest surprises are always when something fails, because I think everything's going to succeed.
That's good. And then what software do you use to help you get so much done?
Asana. I live and breathe in Asana.
Awesome. What is your favorite piece of gear that you own?
My laptop has to be.
Yeah, that's good. And tell, what was that personal finance book that you read? The one that moved you the most?
Oh, I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi.
Yeah.
I interviewed him. I forgot. I said his last name wrong on the show when I interviewed him, but great book.
Yeah, awesome.
And he just came out with a new one, an updated version.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Best business advice.
Say no more often.
That's really
probably
good.
Yeah. And you know what? To be specific, hyper focus on organization. An organized business is so much less stressful. I was not an organized person before doing any of this, and I just became organized because every time I did, it relieved stress.
And best piece of advice on how to be organized for somebody that's not naturally organized.
Oh,
say no.
No, actually invest in one piece of software, like one task software. Mine is Asana. Yours can be Trello. It can be Notion, Todoist, anything, right? What was yours? Basecamp. Yeah. Invest in it and force it to do everything that your business does.
That's brilliant.
And don't use any other piece of software. Just force it. Like, just, make it do everything.
And the thing is, like, the frustrating part for all of us is that there is not one that does all of the things. So we're like, well, we'll use Basecamp for this. We'll use Google for that.
Yeah.
We'll for this. It's like, no. Pick one. If you can limit and just make it work, that's probably that is a great piece.
Yeah. Cram that square hole into that round block, or vice versa, or just force it in. It'll work for you.
I love it. So Matt, where can people find, where's the podcast website? Where should they find you, hang out with you, follow what you're doing?
I mean, if you want businessy type of things, I would certainly go to moneylab.co. If you want to see the video stuff that I work on, it's at swimuniversity.com. If you own a swimming pool or hot tub, you can also go there and learn some stuff. But I do been really heavily focused on the YouTube channel, and it's been growing like crazy. So super happy about that. That's Swim University. If you're into home brewing, you want to home brew some beer, go to brewcabin.com. And that's where I live.
You're like, I'll stop sharing URLs because that's like 8.
Yeah, and plus you're listening to this on a podcast, and you're probably not like gonna just type in my URL.
We'll throw them all in the show notes so people
Cool.
can track you down if they want to brew beer in their house or
perfect.
all of those things. Matt, this is super fun, man. Thank you for saying yes, and thanks for being here. I'm excited for you. Appreciate all that you're doing. Love your spirit and your attitude of trying to give and help and share in your successes and your failures along the way.
Yeah.
Really good. It's inspiring. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Awesome. I hope you loved the episode. It was a good old time. All of the show notes from this episode can be found at studiosherpas.com/142. And if you like this show, review the show. You can do that on the iTunes store. If you really like it, share it with your friends. Tell them, hey, this is a really good show. You should listen to it. And don't forget to check out my free workshop where I'm going to share some of the things that I've done that have helped me build a 7-figure video business. It's not rocket science. If I could figure it out, think I can help you. So I think with some clear direction and a plan, you can get there too, and I want to help you. So check out the workshop at studiosherpas.com/workshop. And next week, Studio Sherpa student John Morgan shares some of his story, and the following week, Still Motion co-founder and Muse Storytelling's Amina Moreau rocks it. Awesome opposum episode. Can you guys hear the rain? It is like pouring right now. Anyway, having Amina on the show, I love when we get to have female filmmakers and entrepreneurs on the show. If you know any female filmmakers or female entrepreneurs that would like to share their journey, please introduce them to me. I would love to have them on the show. With that, what is the one thing that you're going to take away from this episode that you just listened to? I think it's like an hour long. So what's one thing that you're going to take away from this episode and apply to your business? Pick one, let me know what it is, and then put it in your calendar. Let's get after it. That's it. You're great. You're awesome. I love your guts. I really do. I'll see you on the socials. DM me. Hit me up. I'll see you next week. Climb on, my friend, and peace out.